Talk about tonight, and this is something that normally I don't get shocked very easily doing this job, but the actions of someone in North Essex has shocked me beyond belief today. I want you to picture the scene. You go to help at a medical emergency. You're on the phone to the 999 operator. They say there is a defibrillator nearby and you need to get it. So you run to the box where the defib is. When you get there, the box is empty because someone has stolen a defibrillator. Now, that's not a script from a BBC drama. That is actually what happened at Marks Tey railway station yesterday. The discovery was only made when a member of the public went to retrieve it to help a man who'd been hit by a car. On arrival, no equipment to be seen, just an empty box. The man himself fighting for his life after being airlifted to Adam Brooks Hospital. Now, you may remember not too long ago on this programme we spoke to FC Clacton. They had a defibrillator stolen from their ground as well. Nothing else was taken in the raid, just that piece of potentially life-saving medical equipment. Why would anyone want to steal a defib? And just how hard or expensive are they to replace? Well, joining me now is Martin Fagan. Martin is National Secretary from the Community Heartbeat Trust. Martin, thank you ever so much for your time this evening. What did you make of this story, this defib being stolen?
I think it's actually speechless, isn't it? The lack of sensibility of somebody who goes along and steals a piece of medical equipment that is designed to try and save somebody's life is just beyond words. Thankfully, it doesn't happen very often, but when it does happen, something serious has to be done.
Yeah, I suppose it's good that we're shocked by this. If it was an everyday occurrence, we wouldn't be shocked. But I don't understand the mentality of someone stealing it. And if they're trying to sell it, I don't understand the mentality of someone buying a second-hand defibrillator. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, the thing about defibrillators is, firstly, you should never buy anything second-hand. So if anybody's looking out there and trawling the internet and eBay, if it's on eBay or if it's on a website or somebody's trying to sell it to you in the pub, don't touch it. They're cheap enough. You can buy new ones. New ones come with warranties. They come with various security things built into them. Why would you buy second-hand? Now, the other thing, of course, is that it's very difficult to sell a defibrillator second-hand because immediately people get suspicious. You can't really just stick an advert in the paper. You can't file off the serial numbers because they're all stored internally, and whoever actually ultimately gets it, these machines have to be updated. They have to be serviced. At some time in the future, they're going to be found out.
And it's not like stealing medication. You can understand some people perhaps in desperate straits trying to get a high off something. I don't know anyone that tries to get a high off a defibrillator.
No, you can't use them like car restarters. They're not designed to do that. But it does bring up a very important point, and that is defibrillators are medical equipment, and therefore they come under various rules and regulations. And one of the things that has to be done on a regular basis, at least weekly, preferably more, is these devices need to be checked. So whoever the owner is needs to have a process in place to make sure not only this equipment is checked and functional and operational, but also that is being recorded somewhere, that all the various stakeholders like the ambulance services and police and fire know that it's there and know that it's actually operational. Now, I don't know the situation with the Marks Tey railway station and what their processes are, but you can imagine the situation that if somebody doesn't check this equipment regularly and it does go missing, and it's not always there, sometimes people have been sent to it to get it in an emergency and may have taken it away and just forgot to bring it back, or indeed the ambulance service, or in fact the police in some cases may have taken it away, and through their own internal processes it can take some time to come back or be traced. But all of those records need to be kept. This is called governance. You cannot have a sensible defibrillator out there in the community unless it's got governance, unless it's got a resilience program, and unless it's got a sustainability program. And that's what people forget sometimes. It's very easy just to go and buy something without realizing, a defibrillator is not just for Christmas, it's for life.
Yeah, I suppose there is that feeling, isn't there? We've got one now, we've serviced that part of the community, box tick, there it is on the wall. So, do we know how many defibs are in need of a bit of love and care and attention?
Well, it's difficult an exact figure. We did some work with a couple of manufacturers about a year ago now, and we estimated about 1 in 3 needed some form of attention. So they were not fully operational as they should be. Now, that seems a very high figure, but let's just temper that down a little bit, because some of those may be that the expiry dates on the electrodes have just passed, or the batteries are coming too near to their end. But unfortunately, a lot of them are where people haven't realised that these machines need looking after, and they don't get looked after. There was a case about 2 years ago in the south of England where something like 57 defibrillators have been placed into the public sector by a particular charity. And when the local press and media went along to check them, almost all of them were out of action. Now, it's not because people don't want to do it. People think altruistically and want to help and want to save lives. But they forget that these are medical devices, they need looking after, and when you put a defibrillator in, you've got to make sure you have your proper governance programs in place, and you've got to make sure you've got your budgeting to look after these for the next 10 or 15 years.
Because the devices themselves are fairly straightforward to use. You don't need a medical degree or anything to use them, but if they're not operational, they're just a lump of junk.
Well, exactly. It's like sort of, you buy an expensive car and then you don't bother to put petrol in it. You've got to look after these things. You're trying to save somebody's life. The machine, unless it's being looked after, will not save somebody's life. It's as simple as that. So you've got to look after these things. It's going to get a little bit more complex next year because there's a wonderful new law that comes into effect called the Medical Devices Regulations. And this means there's a change in the law. And part of those medical device regulations is that any medical device, particularly those in public domain, like defibrillators, not only have to be looked after, but you have to keep records of all those things that you're doing on them to look after. So, should somebody unfortunately die and it goes to a coroner's court, you've got to be able to present all that information and that documentation about how you've looked after that equipment to the coroner. And that comes in next year. So, people do need to realise, these are not toys, they're serious medical devices.
Martin, we should stop and appreciate, I suppose, the work of the defibrillator, because it's gone from almost hardly anyone having one a few years ago to being quite widespread. Do we know how widespread they are and how many lives they're saving?
Difficult to get a figure on that. People ask us that question all the time, how many lives it's been saved. It's a lot. The statistics you can pick off the Department of Health and NHS England websites, but it's something in the order now that when somebody calls a 999 and there's been a cardiac arrest, somewhere in the order of about 25% of those people are now getting to hospital with their heart pumping.
Wow.
Now that compares in 2000 with only 2%. So it's gone up from 2% to about 25%. That's a huge increase, and that's been achieved because of people understanding more that it's better to do something rather than doing nothing, and that something is start pumping that chest. If you start pumping that person's chest, you're keeping the blood flowing, you're keeping the oxygen going around the body, and it gives you time to do something else. And the something else is get a defibrillator on them. So all these projects around the country is not about putting a defibrillator in, it's actually about putting a defibrillator in, but also running education in the communities to help people understand the process to save the life. And if people follow that simple process, and defibrillators are incredibly easy to use, as long as they follow that simple process, lives will be saved. We're not where we want to be yet, we've still got a way to go, but boy, we're heading in the right direction.
Martin, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Martin Fagan there, National Secretary from the Community Heartbeat Trust. So